Hey everyone, it's time for another edition of Beaver Banter.
Beaver Sports Talk lives here.
It is the Beaver Banter podcast presented by Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation. I'm CJ Baumgartner, Ian Rivers over there. Ian, just before we get anything going, we do have a hockey-centric episode for men's hockey that we did with Bemidji Pioneer sports editor Jared Ribedo. He's a huge friend of the podcast. Always great to have him drop his hockey insight, and boy, was he bursting with hockey information and just to talk about the Beavers. So that's a great episode, and we're just really encouraging people to go back and look at that one if you haven't already.
Yeah, it's always a good time to talk to Jared. Hockey teams had a really good start to the season, so it was a great time to get him on a couple weeks before the winter break, and it was a really good episode as always.
Yeah, exactly. So before we get any further, we got soccer to eulogize. We have women's hockey to talk about, of course, men's and women's basketball starting to get things into high gear as well with the NSIC play and Thanksgiving tournaments just around the corner. Ian, first, though, we got to shout out the great people at Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation.
Do you want to be a part of the team behind the teams at Bemidji State? Join hundreds of dedicated fans when you donate to Beaver Athletics and help BSU pursue its next championship. Your gift can power your favorite program, establish a scholarship for a student athlete you get to meet, and so much more. Every dollar brings the Beavers closer to raising another trophy. You can add to the proud tradition of success at Bemidji State. So don't wait. Give today at bsualumni.org/Beavers. That's bsualumni.org/BEAVERS.
All righty, and before we get too far into the podcast, we do want to start on a light note because this has kind of pretty much been the biggest takeaway of the weekend, right? And I think overall, if you looked at the Bemidji State Twitter sphere, the Beaver influence, the just basically creeping its way into the professional levels in multiple leagues, and I think Gunnar Olszewski may have dominated the weekend with his huge play. And I think it's just better off. Just here's a little bit of what it sounded like.
As Olszewski throws, it's caught. Olszewski with the pass into the end zone for a Giants touchdown, Jameis Winston.
I mean, like,
wow.
Just an insane play. And we'll see if they show the replay here. This is why you should watch the show on YouTube.
Unreal, Kenny, unreal. So this is Olszewski. He's going to get the ball on a reverse. I thought it was going to be a reverse pass to the front side. Instead, he's waiting for Jameis Winston, who then gets open, going against Derek Barnes, somehow breaks it.
I mean, if you were to tell me, Ian, that on Bemidji State's campus in 2018, we're sitting in the athletic complexes. We're sitting there in the big classroom. If you're a sport management major, you know exactly, or minor, just taking the sport management class, you kind of know that big room that you're sitting in right next to the old glass. And we're sitting there. It's 2018. Me and you were in class. And we look a couple tables up ahead, and right in the front row is some dude in cowboy boots and a tank top named Gunnar Olszewski. You look over to your right, and there's Zach Whitecloud sitting there as well. He's going to hold the Stanley Cup. Gunnar Olszewski is going to throw a touchdown pass to Jameis Winston for the New York Giants in 2025. If I were to tell that to you, Ian, in 2018 on Bemidji State's campus, I mean, just what are the thoughts that go through your head?
I mean, I guess the Whitecloud one is pretty believable. Like, maybe you don't assume
it's reasonable.
Yeah, it's more reasonable than like Gunnar, he made the NFL. Cool. But for him to be in the NFL, 9 years later, that's the incredible thing to me. And that he's still making plays, man. It's a shame that Jameis might have overshadowed him on that play. Jameis, I mean, that defensive player for the Lions might have to retire after that.
He got grilled in film study on Monday, you have to assume.
Yeah. But yeah, Gunnar, I mean, he's already had quite a few highlights in his career, catching touchdowns from Tom Brady, scoring touchdowns against my Chargers, having his career game against them. And he's done plenty. He's been a great special teams player for many years. And, now there's opportunity extra because the Giants are struggling a little bit this year, but he's taken advantage of it. And I believe he's now the second all-time NSIC passer ever. Like there's one player from Moorhead, I believe, that has one more yard than him.
Right.
He's also the most efficient Giants passer of all time with a perfect QBR or a perfect passer
Shout out
rating.
Micah of Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation for finding that stat, by the way.
He's always digging. He's got stuff that just, I don't know where he keeps it, because it comes out too quick too. It's like, man, I'd have to look for days to find some of this stuff.
He's just got it ready to roll. He was putting out tons of Gunnar Olszewski propaganda, and props to him, because I've been liking and sharing just about everything I've seen that's come out of Micah's profile, because as he should, by the way, because it's just such a cool play. And he's the only Bemidji State Beaver to throw a touchdown pass in the NFL as well. And I think you'd have to say, I know that there was a couple of players throughout the history, and I'm blanking on their names, but there's been one, maybe two Beavers who have played in the NFL. And Gunnar has just put together the most impressive resume of any Bemidji State Beaver. And, obviously you can maybe look at that and like roll your eyes at it for a second. But like you said, he's been in the league darn near a decade. If you look at 2019 is his first season. Let me count here. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. He's had 7 seasons in the NFL, and the average career is like 2 years. So for him, he's dang near quadrupled the average margin of his career lifespan, and just really cool. I remember back, and obviously we don't want to get too carried away, but I just remember us doing R&B Sports Talk at Bemidji State Radio. We were doing our show, and we heard Gunnar Olszewski got signed by the Patriots, and we were like, if this isn't the most Bill Belichick, like you just guarantee like he's going to make the team. He was like a tryout out of rookie minicamp that they gave a shot to on the roster. And like the very first thing Bill Belichick mentioned is, well, he played catcher in baseball. So, there's some intangibles there. And it's like, yeah, he's cracking the roster. Like you just tell, like that was the very first words that came out of his mouth. Nothing about football, just the fact that, yeah, he also was a catcher in baseball. Like that was the thing. So, it's really cool. And I get the chance to brag about that to anybody I can. That one, Gunnar Olszewski's doing things in the NFL, which is really cool. And two, that like we just, we're in class with him. Just kind of, not that we really were talking to him, because obviously we're just two schlubs, but like it's still cool just to kind of look back on all that. One's holding the Stanley Cup in Zach Whitecloud. One's throwing touchdown passes in the NFL in year 7. And we're here with the Beaver Banter podcast. So I think everybody won in the end, right?
Yeah, we're all up right now.
Exactly. We're all up. Unfortunately, women's soccer can't quite say the same thing. Their a really stellar season came to an end against a familiar foe in the NCAA tournament in Central Missouri. And Ian, I know you had a chance to check out the game. Just from your first person perspective, just tell me what you saw and just what happened.
I thought UCM played a really good game, and the Beavers it's a very tough, region. Like all the teams, Minnesota
You're going to run into somebody good in the NCAA tournament.
Right. And it didn't look like a team that was like overmatched, like from the jump. They were playing super aggressive, and I was like, all right, if we can weather the storm early, they look like they're going to run themselves into some fatigue issues, but they really never did. And they looked very confident on the ball. The Jennies did. And there was some really good opportunities for the Beavers in this game. Katrina Barthelt probably with the closest one. She looked electric every time she got on the ball. She took on a couple defenders at multiple points, and probably had a shot that was just a couple inches wide that really might have ended it in regulation there with, I don't know, probably 15-ish minutes left in the game. But yeah, unfortunately it goes all the way to overtime and or extra time, if that's what you want to call it. But Beavers had a lot of chances, 5 shots in the first half, 2 shots in the second half, for a total of 7 and 5 on target. UCM only had a total of 4 shots. They had 1 in overtime. Of course, that was the one that was on target in the back of the net. It was just a little bit of a, get out of position a little bit and can't clear the ball away and put it at the back of the net. So it's an unfortunate way to end the season, especially at home in the first round. Maybe you feel a little bit better if you can win this game, and then, you get bested by a good St. Cloud State team. But at the end of the day, it was a fun season to cover, and it was still a good season to be able to get yourself back in the dance after a hiatus last season. This team did not lose a lot of games this year. I think that this was their third loss of the season only, which is really incredible. They
two of which have come to Missouri teams.
Yeah, exactly. That seems to be our kryptonite for whatever reason. Now 0-3 against the Jennies, but it is what it is. I can't lie to you. I didn't think the ref did a very good job in this game, but it is what it is. Like, I don't know that really affected the outcome of the game.
I'm a novice soccer guy. So tell me what that means. Just like, I don't need you to get in a full breakdown, but just kind of tell me what you mean by that.
I thought that there was a couple of 50-50 calls on fouls that could have gone, either way. It's like the inconsistency part of it, where it's like, well, why is that now a foul on us when we were just calling for it to be a foul on them 5 minutes ago on the other side of the field? And you could see Jim Stone saying the same thing on the sidelines, and how frustrating that was. There was one in particular, and I only got the chance to see it once. No benefit of instant replay, especially at the stadium. And I can't remember if it was Kittle or Frittel that was basically trying to get on a breakaway, and I thought got hauled down, which would have been in the rule book a clear path foul, essentially, in basketball, and a red card for UCM. But it was called basically offensive foul on the Beavers, and the ball was going the other way. It's like, well, I don't know. I kind of disagreed with that one, but I only got the chance to see it once. But at the end of the day, like I said, there was nothing maybe other than that call that really would have impacted the game to such a massive, extent that I really felt like he was that terrible as a referee. Like, he didn't give up 3 different penalty calls in the game or something like that. So at the end of the day, the Beavers unfortunately just weren't able to find the back of the net, and that's what lost the game. We talked about it all year, how the offense was looking a lot better, and unfortunately the last 180 minutes of the season with that St. Cloud State game, well, I guess plus overtime in both of those games, they still weren't able to find the back of the net. So, yeah, it's unfortunate, but like I said, still really good season. Had a lot of fun covering this team this year. They won a lot of games, and I'm sure that they'll bounce back next year. They've got some pieces. They've got some pieces on this roster. They'll lose Katrina Barthelt, which is unfortunate, but we said the same thing when we lost Sarah Wendt a couple years ago, and
said the same thing when they lost Rachel Norton all the way back. They've just been able to find some of these star scorers, which has been really helpful. So
yeah, 100%.
And by the way, speaking of Barthel, she becomes the first Bemidji State Division II CCA region Central Region Player of the Year. And of course, just all the accolades that she was able to earn and throughout her career, and friend of the podcast, by the way, Katrina. And it was just really cool getting to pick her brain a little bit and talk about Bemidji State women's soccer and what it's meant to her and this program and things like that. So overall, with her and the other seniors as well on this roster, some great careers. They've had some great moments with this team. It's unfortunate that they couldn't make any this year. But like you said, Ian, it just got the program back on the right track. And just in a way of now, man, last year they took a little step back. How are they going to respond? Do they have the dogs? Are they going to be able to kind of reestablish themselves? And even though they didn't win an NCAA tournament game, still getting to the dance and still, like you said, being as impressive as they were throughout the regular season is still really, really good. I think if you would, the season overall, not a disappointment. I think if you were to pull them, right after the game, right after that Central Missouri one, maybe there's hey, felt like you said, felt like maybe we should have been able to win one. It's tough to lose it, in a nothing, go to overtime and see what happens, where overtime games and matches are pretty much a coin flip. So, it's things like that can get frustrating and feel like a disappointment. But again, it only goes to show just where this program is at and the expectations and the things that these players have done before and proven that they can do. So, overall, again, disappointing in that sense, but overall, this is, and we come back to this all the time, and I don't want to rehash this entire argument, but we've said this before with different sports, and I think it's worth saying again, Ian, especially in college. The odds Bemidji State is going to be winning national championships in every single sport, every single year with relative ease is just not possible. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen for any school. And you just kind of have to take the good with the bad and enjoy. And there's this thing of, obviously you want your teams to win. You want your teams to be successful. You want to watch good soccer. You want to watch good football. You want to watch good baseball, basketball, hockey, whatever, cross country, whatever the sport is. But at the end of the day, your team's going to be hoisting the championship every single year, or probably never in just the general case. So it's about enjoying the product on the field and enjoying the players and kind of the storylines and the people along the way. And there's been some great storylines this year. There's been, Katrina Barthel racking up records and points and accolades and things like that. And this team only losing 3 matches over the course of the year. Like, those are things where it's like, yeah, the season didn't end the way you wanted it to, but also this was a pretty fun ride. And as a fan, that's really all you can ask for. Asking for championships is just rarely going to be a standard unless you're Alabama football. But like, can you still enjoy the ride along the way? And I think that was very much the case with Bemidji State women's soccer this year. So I consider it a successful season in that regard.
Yeah, I do too. I think, if you asked me before the season, maybe I'd be a little disappointed that it was a 2 seed that lost to a 7 seed. But like I said, at the end of the day, these teams weren't separated by that much in the Central Region rankings at the end of the day.
It was a coin flip game. And guess what? It turned out to be a coin flip game.
Yeah. I didn't know that it was golden goal in the NCAA tournament. I don't know if that's always been the case or if that's new.
Explain to, because I'm an idiot. Explain golden goal.
Golden goal is basically hockey overtime, right? Where they score a goal and the game ends.
Sudden death.
Yeah, sudden death. Well, okay, yeah, that's a simpler way to to put it. But yeah, sudden death overtime. Normally, I mean, we played a game against Minot State, I believe, in the NSIC tournament a couple of years ago where we won 2-0 in double overtime. And it's like, well, how does it, because you keep playing even after the first goal.
Even after a team takes the lead. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what I was kind of expecting. I was at the stadium. They didn't really explain it. So maybe if it's new or if it's always been that way in the NCAA tournament, I don't know. But either way, I was very confused when they started rushing the field after the goal. I'm like, we still have like 13 minutes to try to answer here, but I guess not. So that was unfortunate too, because clearly if we would have had that 13 minutes, we would have gotten back and scored 2 goals to win the game.
Exactly. Or at the very least got it to double overtime.
Yeah.
And figured it out from there. So I could see why with the NCAA tournament, with the amount of games they're asking them to play in a short amount of time, it's probably like, we just gotta, especially when it's like a host site. So there's multiple games that need to take place. I understand, it's like, we gotta wrap these up in a way. It's sucks that that's how a team's season has to end, but digress. Like we've said, Stone is a great coach, just built this program up and continuing to keep it churning. Expect nothing less than being in contention for an NCAA tournament bid again next year. So, and that's just a really fun place to be. So, wrapping things up with soccer, any other thoughts, anything else as we kind of have our last thoughts on Bemidji State women's soccer in 2025?
No, it stinks that the season's over. It's been fun to cover them, and I was hoping that it would last at least another week, maybe 2, but at the end of the day, that's why you play the game, right? If you walk in and say, oh, we're the 2 seed, we should be playing next weekend, like, got to go out there and got to get it done. But, they've gone far before, so I think they'll be back. So next year should be fun just as well.
Exactly. Ian, let's shift gears here and let's talk a little Bemidji State women's hockey. We talked about just coming up for them this weekend that there was an opportunity to get points, and Friday, not necessarily the way you drove it up, but Saturday you were able to salvage the weekend.
Yeah, 0-4 loss on Friday. That was very unfortunate. And then you come in Saturday and you're pretty motivated, it looks like. You got out to a 3-0 lead early in the second period. And when you're an underdog, which the Beavers were, St. Cloud State, even ranked 4-9-1, was a top 10 team in the country, because women's hockey is
it's a fascinating ride.
It's like the SEC, right? Some under 500 teams are going to get some coaches poll love.
Hey, when you play in the WCHA, it's the SEC of women's hockey,
Exactly. But like I said, with the underdog storyline, it's like, yeah, we're up 3-0, but you're looking at that clock and you're like, we still got like 38 minutes left to play in this game. Like, this is a sketchy lead to have. And just 5 minutes later, St. Cloud State made it 3-1. But then 7 minutes after that, the Beavers get another goal. And it's like, okay, now it's 4-1 though. Like, we should be all right. 4-1 going into the third period. What could go wrong? And a lot went wrong. The Beavers gave up 4 straight goals, including a shorthanded goal. And with 4.5 minutes left, St. Cloud State actually took the lead 5-4. And you're like, wow, you know, even for a program that is not at the same place as St. Cloud State is right now, it feels a little disappointing to have a 4-1 lead heading into the third and to come out with no points against the Huskies. But Issa Godel got a goal with 32 seconds left in the game to tie it and send it to overtime and salvage at least something from the weekend. And then it was Haley Armstrong, who else, in overtime to give the Beavers a win over the Huskies. 3 points would have been great because then you'd still be tied with St. Cloud State on the season in terms of WCHA standings. But hey, considering the fact that we didn't take any points off of St. Cloud State last year, this kind of makes up for a little bit of the, you know, we're still, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, we're still on pace, right? Like last year when we played in Mankato, we got no points. This year we got 1. Last year when we played St. Thomas and Bemidji, we got 6 points. This year we got 3. But last year against St. Cloud State, we got no points, and we've already got 2. So technically, we still got those 6 points that we had.
If you build it in the aggregate, you're kind of right on pace. Yeah.
And so, and it's good. Like, this is kind of what we've been talking about. Like, we want to be able to beat more teams than just St. Cloud State and Minnesota State. And yes, it's disappointing to give up 4 goals in the third period and end up dropping a point in this game that you should have probably had 3. But at the end of the day, great resolve to come back. And I mean, I know myself as an athlete, and if I would have been playing in this game when I was younger, I would have maybe just skated off the ice. Like,
I'd have been like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Yeah.
I did not have the heart of a champion, I guess is what you
The mental
say.
resolve.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So to go out there and tie it up.
You didn't have that dog in you.
Yeah, I guess not.
It was it was like one of those where it's like, bro got the wrong dog in him. It's the X-ray with all the hot dogs or something
exactly
like that. Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
I don't mean to pick any. I just really like that.
No. but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, 6 points, still last place in the WCHA. The really unfortunate thing for women's hockey this weekend, Minnesota State sweeping the Gophers, getting 6 points. That's not very good for the Beavers in their hopes of potentially climbing up the standings, because that's maybe a weekend you're hoping like, hey, if we can take some points off St. Cloud State, like if everything went perfectly, Minnesota State gets swept. We split with St. Cloud State, and all 3 of those teams are sitting at 9 points right now. But now, Minnesota State up at 15. So the Beavers are going to have a chance to try to make up some ground there. St. Cloud State has not looked as good as they have in the past. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll just have to keep playing it, week by week as we, go through the season. But like I said, that'd be really cool to see this team potentially make up some ground in the standings and maybe finish 7th this year, if that's get a little stepping stone towards the right direction.
Well, and they also have an opportunity this weekend to build that confidence back up, right? You're playing a team 100%. In Lindenwood at the Sanford Center. Lindenwood's 4-13 on the road. Yeah.
Yep. It's in St. Charles.
In St. Charles. And looking at their record, they're 4-13-1 overall. Their first 2 games of the season, granted back in September. So that's 2 months ago. So maybe not the best apples to apples comparison, but they got swept by St. Cloud State, losing 5-0 in both games. So they feel, they got swept by St. Thomas. They got swept by Mankato. So there's a few like opponents here that you feel like they tied and won in a shootout against Robert Morris and lost to Robert Morris, a team that you were able to sweep kind of earlier in the season. So it does feel like this is a matchup for the Beavers that they have to, at the very least, feel like they can compete throughout the entire game. But also, again, you never want to predict a sweep, even, in anything. And obviously it doesn't matter in the conference point of things, but, Bemidji State's not going to be competing for the WCHA this year. So, never kind of, anyway, the whole point is like this season about vibes and building things up and feeling like you're getting more and more confidence in the program. So even though you're not going to get any points off this weekend, it's not like if you get swept, it's like, whatever, at least it doesn't count on us in the conference, which is true. But I think it's just one of those where it's like, this is just a weekend to get some confidence in your program and feel good going into a matchup against UMD and then kind of out for a month. So there's a good opportunity for the Beavers here to pick up some wins if they can kind of have things go their way.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was just going to bring up. Like, we're talking about standings. You don't have a chance to improve on it this week, but you have a chance to build on this momentum that you just got. You took 2 points off of a pretty good St. Cloud State team. I mean, down for their standards, but, and again, CJ, you brought this up, but if you look at some of the common opponents between these teams, Lindenwood swept 5-0 by St. Cloud State, swept by St. Thomas, swept by Minnesota State. Those are 3 teams that you've taken at least 1 point off of this year. So again, we don't necessarily want the team going in with that mentality of, oh, we're just going to walk all over them because we can compete with the teams that already swept them. You still have to go out and show that you can do it. But at the end of the day, very winnable games on the docket here, and a chance to tie your win total already from last season in November. So that would be really big if this team can come out with a pair of victories, be 6-9-1 through its first 18 games, 17 games technically. No, 16. Yeah, 16 games. So I mean, that would just be I honestly better than I would have expected, coming into this season. I would have thought maybe you can push for, 7-8 wins on the season this year, but I would have expected to be pushing for that maybe come, February or something like that rather than here in late November. So definitely a good opportunity, and it's a good opportunity on the road as well. Most of the success this team has had has come in the Sanford Center this year. They only have 1 result on the road this year, and that was a 2-2 tie with Mankato. Everything else that they've gotten has been in the confines of the Sanford Center. So a good opportunity to go prove themselves on the road in Missouri.
Exactly. And also they have the series coming up with UMD next weekend, December 5th and 6th, but you have your month-long break. Coming out of that month-long break, again, you go on the road over to Merrimack in Maryland, and Massachusetts, excuse me. You go over to Merrimack in Massachusetts, and you have a chance to get a couple more wins. Merrimack split with Lindenwood earlier in the season. Again, they're not gimmies. It's not like, oh, you'll go in and you'll get 2 wins and you'll go, but it's, hey, those are games that, there's, I think Peyton Manning, famously, when he got drafted by the Colts, said he basically was, his job was to try and prevent the Colts from being a circle win team, where when teams go through their schedule, they go, all right, well, we're playing Indianapolis. There's a win there, and you circle it kind of on your thing. And that's basically where Bemidji State does have some circle wins where it's like, hey, we're playing this team. We should have a chance to get a win there. We're playing this team. And again, it's just the program is where it's at. Coach Fricklin's still building. There's some good players on this team, but it's trying to build it all together, trying to get it to where it's going to be. And it's going to take time. So again, it's the state of the program, and it's being honest of where it's at. And it's not that it's in a bad spot. We're feeling pretty good about Coach Frickland. It's just, it's going to take some time to get things where it needs to be and where she wants it to be and things like that. But there's certainly some good opportunity for the Beavers here to have a good weekend, try and see how you stack up against UMD, and then take a month off. And then you come right out of the gate with an opportunity to win some games in 2026. So a lot of things happening, Ian, for Bemidji State to have a good weekend in women's hockey. Just what needs to happen? Do we need to see a little bit better play defensively? Do we need to see a little bit more scoring? Is it in net? What do you think is just some things to make sure that Bemidji State can do to have a good weekend and to be able just to get a win on the weekend that, feels pretty decisive? Like, all right, you came out and you were the better team and it showed.
Yeah, I think you're just looking for avoiding that kind of one disastrous period in this game.
That's been their story.
Obviously, you gave up 9 goals on the weekend, but if you want to look at a common opponent between Lindenwood and yourself, like go back to that Robert Morris series and say, okay, we only allowed 1 goal on the weekend. And I don't necessarily expect that to be the case this weekend, but anytime you only allow 1 goal in a weekend, you're probably coming out with at least 1 win. Like, yes, there's a chance that you tie 1-1 and
you probably swept them.
Yeah, like you probably swept them. Like it would be great to come out of this with at least 1 win, maybe a win and a tie, maybe a sweep. But, at the very end of the day, getting 1 win at the very least this weekend on the road is going to be huge. And I think avoiding one of those disastrous periods like they've had over the last couple of weeks. I mean, they had plenty of it against Minnesota, unfortunately, but maybe what can you do against them if you're not the Mavericks. But yeah, I would say that's my biggest key. Offense has been pretty good. Inconsistent, but still I'm fine with the offense we've seen, and I think they have another decent chance to put up a few goals this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. We are going to talk some men's and women's basketball as they get ready for conference play and then some Thanksgiving tournaments coming up. But first, want to give a shout out to Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation, the proud sponsors of the Beaver Banter podcast, because once a Beaver, always a Beaver. The Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation is here to keep that green and white pride going strong for its 50,000 graduates around the world. From scholarships that open doors for students to events that bring BSU alumni and friends together, you can get connected, give back, and leave a legacy at Bemidji State. Whether you're a proud BSU grad, a local supporter, or you just love cheering on the Beavers, come be a part of the action at bsualumni.org. That's bsualumni.org, bsualumni.org. Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation, proud sponsors of the Beaver Banter podcast. Okay, Ian, basketball, things are getting pretty, not close to full swing yet, but hey, we're knocking on the door of conference play. As of recording the podcast, both teams have not played yet. So by the time you listen, you'll see how their matchups go against UMD. Both UMD men's and women's basketball programs have been known to put together some good teams on the floor. So right away, kind of a good barometer for how you think your team can stack up in the NSIC. Is UMD like a clear and cut number one every single year? No, but they're typically in the top half. They're typically fighting for a good spot. So if you can run right with them, maybe get a win, you feel pretty good about where you're standing. If you lose close, you feel like, hey, we'll tighten up as the season goes on. But again, that's just kind of the quick outlook for men's and women's basketball throughout the games tonight that are taking place as of recording again at the BSU gymnasium. But also, Ian, coming up is some holiday tournaments, but again, want to look at Oak Hills Christian College. And again, before we get too deep, want to remind everybody that we had the opportunity at the Beaver Banter podcast last week to talk with Coach Jake Masick of Bemidji State men's basketball, kind of their defensive coordinator, if you will, of that team. And it was a really fun conversation getting to talk ball with him, to talk hoops and kind of some of the things he wants to do defensively at Bemidji State and the things they want to do and the players they're excited about and things like that. So that was one of last week's 2 episodes. Go back and listen to that wherever you get your podcasts on YouTube if you haven't already, or go back and listen to it again because he had a lot of really great information to talk about, Ian. And one of the things he mentioned, hey, we can't take Oak Hills, we got to come out ready to go against Oak Hills. And I think sometimes we can roll our eyes at that and go, hey, Oak Hills is a community game. It's great, but this one Bemidji State should win every single time. And they did. They won 113-45. But I think if you ask Coach Masick and you ask Coach Boshi and you ask the entire staff, it's not about getting the win. It's about we use this as a tune-up game. We're trying to get some things right. This isn't a live game situation. You're trying to perfect some things. So that's definitely, what he meant by it, and I think everybody knows that. But just again, Bemidji State took care of business. They got it triple digits. They defensively held them to under 45. So overall, a good night for the Beavers men's basketball team. They're 2-1 overall. They have their matchup against UMD, and then they go down to Florida Southern College in Lakeland, Florida. They're going to play St. Leo University, the Lions, Friday, 4 o'clock. And then on Saturday, 6:30, they're going to take on Florida Southern, the Moes. So didn't we have a conversation about the Moes last year, Ian, on this podcast?
I don't know.
It sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar, but I can't. It was one of those weird.
What is a Mo? I'm genuinely curious. What is a Mo?
I don't know.
I'll look it up.
Genuinely do not know what that is. So unfortunately, for us, we are a little bit lost on that standpoint.
The Moes, maybe I'm just reading. Maybe I'm just not reading cursive right, or my screen just needs to be bigger. Is it the Mocs? MOCS?
Oh yeah, it's the Mocs. So
the
probably
Mocs.
like a water moccasin.
Yeah. Oh,
Florida.
yep. Yeah, those snakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
it's
Well, I'm an
definitely a
idiot.
C.
So
Well,
cool.
no,
All right. I
Look
can't read.
like
That's
E, on first glance. So I'm not going to blame you there. I didn't look at it hard enough to doubt you until maybe
I'm sorry, Mox. You can send your hate mail to the Beaver Banter podcast.
Gosh, now we're gonna lose, CJ. Oh my
darn it.
gosh.
If we win, they're the Moes. So that's the good part.
Yeah, exactly.
Their logo is one of the Three Stooges. I'm sorry, I didn't write the rules. That's exactly how this has to go. Bemidji State, you need to win for my honor, please, Coach Masick, if you're listening. Come on. But no, I think overall it's a really good opportunity for Bemidji State this weekend and this week against UMD. And obviously, by the time people listen to this podcast, that'll already be done. But the holiday tournaments always just, again, those wins and losses don't really matter. Your conference is really where you're looking to do your main damage, but these are good tune-up games. These are games where you don't really know a ton about the other team, generally speaking, like you do your conference opponents. So it's a good opportunity just to see a different jersey, see some different looks, and kind of final tune-ups before you get into the meat and potatoes of NSIC play.
Yeah. I like, I love the holiday tournaments. It's feast week. It's always one of my favorite weeks for the college basketball. I hate
that in college basketball, generally speaking, they're like moving away from it. It just makes my heart sad,
Yeah, for sure. Just trying to look here. What is it? St. Leo is 2-2 on the season. Again, I don't know much about the two opponents that they've played. They're 2-2. It looks like, what was the other one? Florida Southern is 4-1 on the season. A win over Alaska Anchorage. A couple wins. Savannah State seems to be a pretty common opponent for these guys. So, yeah, again, we are not going to learn much from just box score watching the opponents we have coming up. But, yeah.
They did not play either of those two teams last year, by the way. So
no.
They went for Thanksgiving, they went to Miami Shores and Boca Raton for their games. So where they played Barry and Lynn. So it must have been a couple years ago, but either way, just a good opportunity, Ian, to see a couple different teams and see how you stack up against them.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm excited for these matchups tonight against Minnesota Duluth. Again, very small sample size so far this season, so we don't have a lot of statistics and stuff to throw at you for the Duluth Bulldogs. But on the women's side, they are 2-2 so far this season through 4 games, and on the men's side, they are currently 4-1. So one of the better teams at the top of the NSIC North. And as I'm looking at the NSIC standings, CJ, this is something I've been barking for a long time from this website. They have it on the men's side. They do not have it on the women's standings page yet, but they have the rank next to the team that says 1 through 8 in the standings, so that I don't have to physically count down anymore when I'm looking at, the Beavers look like they're sitting in 11th.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Exactly. Yeah. So it just makes it so much simpler for us meager little podcasters that can now not have to
Won't
ruin
someone
our show
think of the podcasters,
Exactly. So yeah, no conference games played as of yet, but I mean, we got to be pushing, tip-off time. I suppose probably 5:30 and 7:30. Looks like the men play at 7:30 tonight. So
yeah, I would guess the women's basketball team, in looking up,
it's probably 5:30.
Probably 5:30, 5 o'clock, maybe.
Probably not after. I assume it's not
5:30.
after the 7:30 game. So
5:30.
Yeah. I mean,
and that is in Duluth for the women's basketball team, and of course the men as well at UMD. I believe I said BSU Gymnasium earlier, so that was wrong. But either way, playing at Romano Gym, that's always a really fun place to play. And the Beavers are looking to try and get some wins here in conference early. And I think looking over at the women's basketball side of things, I know their schedule is just a little different than the men's side. They played University of Minnesota Morris last Monday. They got an 85-53 win there. And so as the women's basketball team heads into the regular season, they are 2-0. They had a couple exhibition games to kind of get things rolling. So this will be their first conference game of the year. And then after that, they are going to go to Tampa on Friday and Saturday for games against the Florida Institute of Technology on Friday at 11 a.m. And then Saturday, 1 p.m. tip-off against the host team, University of Tampa. And again, same things. Tune-up game in the conference, kind of measuring stick, first game on Tuesday night. And then your Friday and Saturday games are just kind of, hey, let's work on a couple things. Let's see some teams that we don't normally see. And then December 4th on Thursday, you start the main bulk by hosting Moorhead and then going on the road Saturday to Crookston. So very interesting kind of start to the schedule here before we kind of get into that rhythm come mid-December. But Ian, let's go back to the men's side of things here. What are you looking for just in these games? I know obviously you want them to win, but is it kind of getting that defensive identity going? Is it seeing the offense? What's just something for the men's basketball team you kind of want to see? And as you think of that, I'll kind of talk about mine here, but I think basically it's just to see how this kind of offense works. I know last year, John Sutherland missed a lot of time due to injury and the team didn't quite, obviously you spend all summer building your identity around one of your best players. And then when they get hurt, you kind of have to throw anything at the wall and see what sticks. And you kind of have to basically throw all the plans you spent months working on in the garbage, but just because you have to. And so how does this team kind of move forward with that? Who kind of takes on some of the load of that? Obviously, senior Tate Olson is somebody who you could think about. Junior John Pekarich is somebody who's ready to take another step up. I know Coach Masick mentioned Dominic Fairbanks and a couple others who are going to get some play throughout the course of the season. But I think overall, just seeing how your offensive identity looks, it doesn't need to be perfect. Obviously, it's still November, but kind of what is the vibe for what they want to do offensively? Your best player is a big, and that definitely figures out how your offense works. And now that maybe you move away from that, maybe you try and do some other things, moving the ball around with some of your bigger guards and stuff like that. So I'm just fascinated to see what Bemidji State men's basketball can do in that regard,
Yeah, absolutely. It's a new season. You want to see what players are going to be featured in what roles. On the contrary, I'm very interested to see how well this team can perform defensively this season. Obviously this season, yeah, but this weekend against a couple of unfamiliar opponents. We talk about all the time, like how you can kind of learn the tendencies of other coaches and other players in your conference, but these are teams that you've never seen before. And so it'll be very interesting to see, defense travels very, very well. You play in a different gym, and it's true. As a shooter, it's harder to shoot on the road. It's harder to shoot in buildings you're not familiar with. Talk about it, the Final Four every year. It's really hard. The 3-point shooting numbers are almost always down in a Final Four because they're in this big stadium where it's just like
it's in baseball, like your batter's eye is just completely your depth perception is all off. Yeah, exactly. There's just a lot of things you got to take in. So that theoretically could help the defense. And also, talking with Coach Masick, they want to do multiple different defenses. They don't want to be like, we're playing zone, we're playing man, we're pressing, we're not pressing. Like they want to do a bunch of different things. So it'll be kind of seeing which one stands out too, is like oh, wow, they're really good in zone, or, hey, man was good, had some moments, but we'll see how they kind of go throughout the year, puzzle piecing it together or something. And I think that, like you said, it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, of course. Very excited for this weekend. Last little crack here for both teams at some out-of-conference games. It's a little bit like a soccer team in a way where it's like, man, we don't get much out-of-conference play. At least hockey, it's like, well, we get 3 or 4 series, and even though it's like familiar opponents every year, women's is, playing some different teams this year for sure. But yeah, for the men's, it's always the same teams. So it is nice every time you get a chance to see another Division II opponent that you don't get to play very often. So I'm excited to see what they can do, and hopefully it translates, especially, and I'm excited for tonight as well. Anytime you get a chance to beat the Bulldogs early in the season, I'm going to get up for it. So.
Exactly. Moving over to the women's side of things, women's basketball, it's kind of the same thing, right? Like, obviously they had a good team last year. They lose some of your top scorers from a year ago due to graduation, due to the transfer portal, and you kind of have to pick up the pieces and figure out who's going to step up. I know obviously Taryn Plash is somebody last year who contributed a lot, and we'll expect to hear her name a lot this season, but who are some other names that we are going to find out about throughout the course of the regular season? Who is going to hear their name pop up and have some things kind of go their way and kind of pick up the mantle? And I think there's a lot more uncertainty just because we don't know yet. Like with men's basketball, there were a couple, Pekarich was in the mix, Olson was in the mix. There are a couple of guys who's like, all right, naturally, these are going to be the guys who will take that next step up. And I think the fascinating part about the women's basketball team is just there's so many fresh faces. We're all going to learn together who these players are. And, the coaching staff has ideas, and I'm sure they have plans and things like that. But, you kind of need the game reps and the game speed to be able to prove like what your eyes were seeing in practice and all summer and things like that. So it'll be very fascinating to see how Bemidji State in women's basketball wants to piece things together and kind of move forward with this. And it'll be interesting to see what Coach Stoltenberg lines up in that first conference game. Because even though it's early, even though it's November, like you said, Ian, you really want to beat UMD, and just to have that opportunity with that rivalry game to be able to go out and get a win is just always really good. And helps motivate you even on a Thanksgiving week, knowing that you're going on a road trip at the end of the week and conference play hasn't quite gotten going yet. So a lot of, in full swing, I should say. You're not quite into the rhythm of the season, but that being said, there's still some opportunities here to put a good imprint on. Last year, Bemidji State against University of Minnesota Duluth got swept, lost the first one at Romano Gym 74-60, and then to the regular season lost 71-54 at the BSU gymnasium for women's basketball. So getting a little revenge against UMD, always something that'll be good to see. So, and again, people who are listening to this podcast will already know if that happened or not. Yep. So, all right, Ian, anything else Bemidji State related? Otherwise, I think we're pretty much all wrapped up here.
Yeah, I think so. I'm excited to see whether the offense can keep up for the women's basketball team. That's been the thing that's kind of caught my eye. It's, again, just 2 games, but they average 83 points a game right now, although it's a little lower opponents that we've seen thus far. So can the offense keep up and keep pace with some of the teams we'll meet in the NSIC and, on the road in Tampa this coming weekend?
Exactly. One more thing before we get out of here, Ian. Beaver Banter Discord was, between women's soccer NCAA tournament, between a huge sweep for the men's hockey team, between women's hockey getting points, between Gunnar Olszewski doing what he was doing. It was a really fun time to be in the Beaver Banter Discord this weekend, and people should join it and do the same thing this coming weekend.
Absolutely. It's a big weekend for men's hockey. We didn't really preview much of the UND series. We talked a little bit about it with Jared. So go listen to that show, of course, join the Discord, but yeah, big weekend against the Fighting Hawks across the border there. So home and home Friday night, get to the Sanford Center. There's going to be plenty of green there, whether it's good or bad green. There will be plenty in attendance.
The right shade of green better be popping out at the Sanford Center.
Yeah. Regardless of who's there, it's always one of the better atmospheres to be at. Like even
it's loud, it's fun, student, it's great.
Super fun to be at. So
they used to do those, like they had the glow sticks and stuff like that. And
yep.
That was those were fun. Those were some fun times to be at the Sanford Center, and they still are fun to be able when they play UD. The one thing, my wife is a proud NDSU alum, and so usually when we talk about our respective schools and their sports, we're kind of like, yeah, what, like I love you, but yeah, whatever, I don't really care. But this is a great time. UND Hate Week is a great time where we can both come together of our, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and we both can just trash UND together, which is always a great thing,
Yeah, of course. Big weekend.
Back to the Discord too. You're at Thanksgiving, family is getting on your nerves a little bit. That's why you got the Beaver Banter Discord. You can just chat with us, and we'll keep you company. We got NFL streams going, so
they're gonna bring up like politics. They're gonna bring up whether or not that you finally found a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and whether you're about to
how finals are going, or what
finals going. Man, it's like I don't really want to talk to you about this, Grandpa or Auntie. Like, let me just go talk about some Beaver hockey.
Exactly.
Tag some people in the Discord, and we'll help brighten your Thanksgiving.
Exactly. We have an NFL stream too as well, an NFL channel. So if you want to talk about the games that are going on, certainly.
If you want to talk about 9 is bringing you down a little bit.
We're talking about 9 in the discussion. We're talking about how he had a better QBR this week. Gunnar Olszewski did than 9. At this point, hey, I'll take Gunnar. Do you think the Vikings could sign Brandon Alt at this point? Like, I'm all in. Should we make that campaign? Because all the Gopher fans won't stop talking about Brosmer. And Brosmer seems like a nice guy. Seems like he's an okay player. Gopher fans are kind of annoying me with how much you guys won't shut up about him. So we'll just do the same with Brandon Alt. We could do the same with Jordan Hine, I think. We could see maybe if he could break out the shoulder pads again. Or McGath. There's a few different ways we could go about this. So
maybe they could use the athleticism of Connor Carver in the back.
Yes, exactly. Declare and sign despite violating NCAA and NFL protocols. Bring him in, because it would be awesome. He would do very well, I think.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty much it for the Beaver Banter podcast. Plus, it would mean you'd have an Augie and CJ Ham. You would have Minnesota State and Adam Thielen, and then you throw in Gunnar Olszewski into that mix. So, And then, might as well trade for Trey Pipkins and stuff like that at a
With
USF.
Get the whole roster going. Yeah.
The gang's all here, NSIC players in the NFL. So
100%.
100%. All right. We've rambled enough. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. We'll see you back here for another episode of the Beaver Banter podcast next week. See you then.